In this video, we're going to be talking about the basic title pack for DaVinci Resolve. It has 20 basic drag and drop titles that are meant to be very fast and very easy to use. You can drag them to your timeline, they already have an animation, and then you can just customize the text, change the outline, add a bar behind it, add a drop shadow, and you are good to go. They're also optimized to render really fast, so that way they do not slow you down. Let's take a look at them inside of DaVinci Resolve. In my effects library, I can come down to whip templates and basic titles, and I can find all 20 of these titles. Let's start with zoom in. We can just drag this right down to the timeline, and when I hit play, we have some text that just zooms into the screen, and at the end, it's going to zoom back out. In the inspector, we can change this to whatever we want. Let's say we do easy to use. Now we can change the font, the color, and the size. You see, we also have the start size value. If I drag this up a little bit, instead of starting all the way down at 0, it's going to start right about there and then scale up to the final size. Down here, I have this mirror out button. If I check this, it's going to add in another control. So in this case, I could have the size start at 0, so it scales up, and then at the end, instead of scaling down, it zooms even closer to the camera. Before we talk about these styling controls, let's go down to additional animations. With this, I can also choose whether or not it fades on or off, as well as having a blur. When I do that, it's going to fade and blur on, and then at the end, it's going to do the same thing when it goes off. And I can customize how intense this blur size is. And with these additional animations, these can be added onto any of the 20 titles. So all the swings, the rotates, the slide-ons, they can all have that fade and blur animation as well. Now let's talk about some of these other controls. Again, these style controls, the shadow and the anim engine are all going to be the same on all the titles. The default style has this outline, but we can remove that just by clicking none or by changing it to a bar. And then down below we have customization to change how big this is. Is it just on the characters, so we could shrink this down, or if it has any corner radius. I do not like how this looks on the characters, so I always leave it to line, and it's set to that by default. Right below that, we can change the color to anything that we might like. And like I mentioned, all of these have a drop shadow that you can enable with one click. Since I'm on a black background, I'll have to set this to be white so that way you can see it. But yeah, super easy to add and disable just with those two buttons. The anim engine is built into all the editor titles tools and allows you to customize how they animate on. Right now, the animation is set to take 1.5 seconds. We could set this to be 0.5, so that way it takes half a second to animate on. It just goes really quick. This would be good if you're making some sort of subtitles and you just want them to come on really fast. And of course, you could turn off the animations as well, so that way you just have a static title with these designs really easy to set up. Let's take a look at one more. We have the slide up title, and this one's going to slide up from the bottom of the screen all the way up to the top. No matter where I position this, it's always going to go down to the bottom and slide back up. And even if I just have it right down here, it's just going to slide down just a very little bit. So it's dynamic, it updates, it knows exactly how far it has to slide. And it doesn't, animate off right away, and then there's 10 frames of no animation. That's annoying whenever I see that in titles, so these ones do not have them. We can also adjust the slide scale. So if I want to set this to be 0.5 or right around there, it's not going to go all the way off the screen, and it's just going to slide up. And again, we have all these same style controls, the shadow, anim engine, and these additional animations to turn on or off depending on what we want to do. Plus, they all have motion blur as well, which just gives it a little bit of a smoothness and a more professional look. You can buy the basic title pack on its own on my website, or you can bundle it with the editor titles pack, which definitely check out. That has 270 titles. I cannot recommend getting that enough. It is a game changer for anyone using DaVinci Resolve. And as always, if you have any questions, please let me know.